Can you tell me about radical ecology?
Radical ecology is a framing of the understanding of ecological interconnectedness into consciousness. So it's called radical because you can't get deeper than consciousness, and it's called ecology because it's about the nature of relationships and their different tiers or orbits of separateness and connectedness and interconnectedness and boundarylessness and wholeness. But of course, by consciousness, I don't mean what a scientist or a philosopher means. They mean the conscious mind, or perhaps they mean conscious experience. But I mean something much deeper and more prevalent than that.
Can you tell us?
What do I mean by that? It's one way of looking at it is first of all defining consciousness as the ability to distinguish, respond, and learn. So I'll come back to that in a moment. But the reason why I say consciousness is deeper than that is because if you're asleep, in deep sleep even, and an earthquake happens, you wake up because you feel the vibration. So the conscious mind is not present, conscious awareness is not present, but consciousness is still present. So this is not recognized by the scientific establishment, by the philosophers, or maybe even individuals, but it's not part of the discourse. Consciousness equals either conscious mind or a little bit deeper, conscious awareness. But to me, it's much more than that. So going back to that definition of consciousness as the ability to distinguish or discriminate, respond or react, and learn, that's compressed into our DNA. Thousands of millions of years from amoebas, distinctions being made, contract, expand, engage, disengage. So there's a stimuli, there's a response, but also learning. Now, we might think that we're the only people or the only primates or mammals learn, but again, that's only if you use a very narrow definition of learning, especially with a cognitive element. And of course, if that's how you define it, that's not learning. But how did DNA get to be so complex if that's not learning? So the way that I see it is that rather than consciousness, as it's normally understood by the scientific establishment, being a outcome of evolution, I would say no, consciousness, in the way that I use it, is driving evolution, is the source of life. Before there were cells, there wasn't chaos. In between chaos and cells, there was order. What created that ordering? And I would say that intelligence, some kind of intelligence. There's distinction going on. Some things are gravitating towards each other. They're avoiding other things, even if there isn't a cellular membrane. So radical ecology is an attempt to place the human predicament as deeply as possible. And to do that, it has to be placed within the nature and significance of consciousness.
Is there a practice that you are teaching?
I'm teaching 3 fundamental practices which are all bracketed under what I would call somatic awareness training, but they also have a specialized expression which I call embodied resilience training. Somatic awareness training is more offered just to people who are curious about their nature, their possibilities. Embodied resilience training is offered to people who are aware that there is a massive crisis coming over the horizon and they want to be prepared for it. Embodied resilience training has nothing to say about external responses to the climate crisis, to the soil crisis, to all of these ecological crises that are really one crisis, the Anthropocene crisis, or the human impact crisis. It's not that. It's about finding within your own nature a resilience to be able to meet that without anxiety, without fear, and without the need to actually just express what we've all been expressing for so long that's created the problem, which is the need to get. and instead to be taken by consciousness, by the deeper part of our nature which has a need to give. And that's really what's required now, that people stop even trying to get safety, because it's the same thing. And what do I need to get safe? I need maybe more money or more this or whatever, you know. So that's it, more or less.
Is this something that anyone can do?
Well, anyone who's willing to slow down and feel, yes. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to be well educated, you don't have to be able-bodied. You just have to be willing to slow down and feel.